Hello. So, in this second part, we're going to look at exposure, saturation, and contrast of an image. So, I assume that you figured out if your footage needed a LUT or not, and that you now have something we can start grading. So, let's try with this image. You remember we had this LUT here. So this is what it looked like before, and this is what it looks like with the LUT applied. As I said earlier, you can bypass all color correction either here or selective nodes here with Command D. Now, for our next step, we're going to add a new node with, oops, not here, so Shift Delete to remove that. I'm going to select this and Shift S to create a node before this last one. And we're going to call this one exposure and contrast. So for this, we can switch to the waveform over here. And we're going to go straight to this color wheel primaries tab over here. And the ones we're going to work with are contrast, offset, and saturation. So the offset, you can turn this wheel down here. It will move all three colors RGB up. So you can see the waveform over here. It just moves the whole waveform up until it's completely white, or the other way around until it's completely dark. So this is some kind of like global brightness. The contrast, on the other hand, pulls the waveform apart, and you see how it adds crazy contrast here as the low parts and the high parts, everything above and below this 512 limit here, gets stretched up or down. So that's what the contrast setting does. So we're going to set this back to 1, and we can reset this here. So we're back to the initial settings. Now, one trick my friend Kolya told me was to adjust contrast and offset is to set your saturation to 0. So saturation is basically how much color there is, right? I can oversaturate like this, or remove it, and then we've got a monochrome image. And now I adjust the contrast on this without really getting distracted by the colors. So I want it to be something like that, and maybe I can pull down the offset a bit. And in general, you want to work with really small changes here, huh? You don't want to overdo stuff. Now, here, I'm exaggerating things a bit just for the sake of this tutorial, but in general, these will be much smaller values. And let's check what it looks like with the colors back. Here we go. And now if I just deactivate this node of exposure and contrast with Command D, I can compare. So we went from something rather washed out to something rather vibrant. Now we can go to individual colors. Let's say we want to bring out the green here. So we could just do this here in the offset, but now as you see, everything will turn green, and that's not what we wanted. So undo. And now I could try these other three ones here. We're going to look at this in the next section. Lift will be the low end, like the shadows. So if I lift this, no, that's even worse. If I do the gamma, that's like the body of the image. Nope. Or the gain, yeah, same. It just gives the whole thing a green tint. Oops. There we go. Now, what you can do in this case is to go over to the color warper. The color warper will show you this display of how the colors in your image are distributed. This is basically the same as the vector scope. See the shape here corresponds to the shape here. So this basically, each dot of this cloud here corresponds to a pixel of your image, and it's placed here inside this grid depending on its color value. So if you have a lot of green, all the green pixels will be here. All the blue pixels, which we have hardly any of because even the sky is kind of white, are over here. And in the center you'll have white, the mix of all the colors. And you have different ways of manipulating these color values over here. And the one we're going to look at now here is this one. So let's say we want this greener. So I go to the green values and I pull this, I just draw over it down into the green. See how this just changed? And you want to do this in a separate node. So let me undo this, create a new node, Option S, and we'll call this warp. And now I can do this separately from the other settings and have compare. So let's do something like this. Let's see if we can, well, we won't be able to get the sky blue here. We'll have a look at that later. And now I can compare. Here we go. So we got a green grass in the background.